Sure.
All right, so we're joined all the way from San Francisco, California, by my friends Jezreel and Tonza Christian, financial experts. The former nurse from Mississippi, gotten all the way out there on the West Coast. We've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. This is for our personal finance class. We're recording this for our friends at Germantown High School, Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us today. You just have such a cool story. And we want to get into the nitty gritty of financial literacy, why it's so important in the Black community, why it's so important for high school students, period. But I think you have a very cool background of starting out from the Meridian area. You were a nurse, a successful nurse, and then you took a 180 pivot and wound up in the Bay Area. So they've been asking me before you came on, now how did that happen? So I said you would tell it better than me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Greg, for the amazing opportunity to share this information. And yeah, when I tell individuals that I shifted from nursing into finance, they're like, you're crazy. I am dying to get in nursing school. The waiting list is so long. And here you are, have left nursing and now doing something totally different. So just a little bit about me and how I kind of shifted and what led the path. So yes, I am born and raised in a very, very small town. If you're from Mississippi, you may have heard of French Camp. If not, then maybe not. It's very small. I think the only thing that's there is French Camp Academy. We have a really good sports team. And
they're in our division. They're in our district in our sports this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a bread store and a gas station. Literally, that's it. But the heart of people there are just very genuine. So I was born and raised in French Camp, Mississippi, graduated from there, went on to nursing school, went on and received my RN degree from Meridian Community College in 2004. Went back and I got my master's in business as well as my master's in healthcare administration. Relocated to California in search of better paying job, better career path, and also something that's called ratios that we do not have in Mississippi. The nurses are amazing there. We do excellent care, but boy, oh boy, you have to juggle between 10, 15 patients a day if you're on the floors, as opposed to here, you may have 2 to 3 to 5 max. And also to being from Mississippi, it was very challenging being a Black woman in healthcare because my manager had an associate's degree. And at that time I had a bachelor's and everybody above me had less degrees, but because I didn't necessarily look the part, the positions wasn't offered to me. But I encourage you to always know your value and never be afraid to move outside of your comfort zone and find someone that is going to, give you the roadmap to be able to say, go be great. So I relocated to California in 2010 and started out working in the ICU, managed ICU for about 6 years, and then took a regional nurse executive position. And I supervised all 20 facilities here in the Bay Area, Northern California for about 8 years. Made great money, went from making $50 an hour to about $180 an hour. But at the end of the day, it does not matter. And I quickly realized it's not about how much money you make, whether you make $5 an hour or $50 an hour. If you don't know how to manage it, protect it, and keep it and grow it from taxes, you'll be broke. So I found myself making more, having more, but not necessarily in a space to where I had a peace of mind. And that's where the financial literacy came in for me. Being a mom of 5 amazing children, and one of them being special needs, my husband, a mom, a wife of 20 plus years, it wasn't about me. I wanted to make sure my legacy was successful, and I had to be open to learning something new.
That's awesome. Now, one thing, and we've had some other financial guests here, and one thing they've always said, look, I get it. When you're 16, 17, 18 years old, this stuff may seem foreign to you. It may seem like this will never apply to me, but we see all these things online about they need to lower their retirement age, and then even our grandparents, they could really depend on Social Security. That's going to go away, even though Social Security may be available to a certain extent to these kids because they're paying into it. People are living longer. There's more people collecting it. So it's not something you can depend on. You've got to start thinking about this right now because you can't just ball out like you see the people on social media. And I know it's a huge influence, but it really is knowing how to manage it. And you don't have to move to California, you don't have to be a financial expert, but not knowing these basic principles can be detrimental not only to your mental health,
Yes.
but to your family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Greg, I totally agree with you. Listen, right now, being a teenager, the things I know now, I wish I knew as a teenager, right? Because here's the deal. You're young and you're probably thinking, I'll start thinking about this in my 30s and 40s later on in life. Let me just tell you, the one thing that you can not go back and calculate and be able to compound is age. At some point in your life, you're going to have more years behind you than you do ahead of you. So the time for you to start thinking about saving and positioning yourself to have a financial secure future is now. And there is something that's called compounding interest, developed many, many years ago by somebody way smarter than me named Albert Einstein. Pretty sure you've heard of him. He says compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Write that down. What do I mean by that? He says, he who understands it earns it. If you never understand compounding interest, you'll always be paying it. Why is that so important? Right now, there's something that's called inflation. Inflation is silently robbing us of our purchasing power. That means yours too. That's why Greg made a great point and talked about our parents and our grandparents. Listen, my grandmother was born in 1924. She couldn't read and write. My grandmother found it so exciting and amazing to watch me get my lessons, because that's what we call it in the South, right? Oh, you get your lessons, right? You getting your lessons. And I would read to her and she found it so fascinating. But guess what? On the backs of our parents and our grandparents and our great-great-grandparents, they sacrificed so much. But we are now in a position to where literally everything we need is at our fingertips, except financial literacy. You cannot Google your way to learning financial literacy. I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, you got to do it the old-fashioned way, which is called picking up a book and reading it. There's so much on social media about, getting wealth and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But right now, it's about creating habits and consistency. You have to create habits right now. The habits that you create in your teenage years and your 20s are going to take you in your 30s, your 40s, and 50s and beyond. So definitely create habits of saving, but also to understanding where to save. Where to save. Here's the key. Inflation right now is about 7%. Let's talk about this. Let's say as soon as you get a little summer job, we just came out of summer. A lot of you may have gotten summer jobs. Let's say you open a savings account and your savings account is giving you 1%, basic math. You're earning 1%, but inflation is 7%. You're already negative 6% in the hole. If your job is not giving you a 6% raise, then you're already starting behind the 8 ball.
Wow.
You may have heard people say, if you never learn how to make your money work for you, you're going to always end up working for it. We've heard that all the time. But guess what? I'm here to tell you, you can never earn your way to being successful, financially successful. Never. You don't have that much time. That is why you have to understand the importance of creating good habits, leveraging higher rates of returns so that even in your sleep, you're making money.
Yeah, and I'm far from an expert, but one thing I always say is that when you're looking at the career choices, and we have several different paths that these kids have talked about. Some are going the university route, some are doing the trade route, some are doing community college, and all those can be, and all those we support them all. I think all of them have great fits. But when you start looking at these careers and they give you retirement options, if you in some careers, I know even as a teacher, they match up to a certain percent or up to a certain amount. And if you're not putting in the maximum amount that an employer would match, you're absolutely outside of your mind. That is money that you don't have to pay, and it's going to go into that compound interest. And when you take that out of your check every month or 2 weeks or whenever, you really don't miss it. It's not about having the most on the paycheck, but you're going to keep having to get paychecks if you're not putting that money into some sort of account. And I have the defer, and I'm not an expert, but I have the deferred compensation as well. So I have the retirement and a deferred compensation. That's all money I'm going to see later that I'm not even missing right now.
Yes. I love that. Listen, if your company is offering you a retirement plan, sign up for it. That is free money. Put in the match. Let's talk about matching for those that may not understand what that means. So if your company says, I'm going to match you up to 4%, but you're only putting in 2% of your paycheck. You're not even getting the free money. That's free money. So at least put in the match so that you're getting that money and it's matching what you're putting in so your dollars goes further. Now let's talk about retirement accounts and deferred comp, as Greg was just talking about. See, listen, there are tax codes for the informed and there's tax codes for the uninformed. 95% of individuals, especially in the South, were so uninformed. We're uninformed. 401k, 403b, IRAs, Roth traditional, there's so many different type of accounts. The proper way to say a 401 is 401 subsection K. That tells the IRS if that organization, when they file their taxes, yes, they got to file taxes too. Everybody has to file taxes, okay? So you need to understand taxes, 101, right? 401 subsection K tells the IRS if that company is that company is a not-for-profit organization. 403 subsection B tells the IRS that that organization is a for-profit organization. So don't think that, oh, well, I have a 401k, I have a 401k, I'm different. It's the same. It is tax codes for the organization. I challenge you to learn the tax codes that are in position for you so that you can begin to leverage them. And understand this. Two, we're Velma Jackson, all right? I'm a Black lady. My husband's Black, as you can see there. Let me just speak to us for just a minute. The system is working just as it's designed to. What do I mean by that? Those that are in the know already know these concepts. You're going to have to dig a little bit deeper, get off of Google and social media for a second, and dig a little bit deeper into books. And that is where you're going to find the knowledge and these concepts to be able to apply. You're always going to get bits and pieces on social media. Everybody's got a fast idea, quick money, quick money, quick money. I'm so sorry. There is no quick way to it. You're going to have to start slow and allow it to build. Even if that's $25 a pay period, put it aside. You'll be surprised at what that will do for you in the future. Again, creating those habits and consistency and allowing time to work for you when it comes to compounding.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, I know when you're 16, 17, you're limited on where you can work. I get all that. But once you start turning 18, or even when you get into college, you know, if you wait till you're 25, 26 to start saving, that's could be 7 or 8 more years you have to work. Because we had a great speaker last week that showed us some graphics on how much time you lose when you don't put money aside. And it was absolutely jaw dropping.
Yes. Yes, it was. So, and it is. And that is because of the time. So time can work for you or against you. Do I have permission to share?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to keep it really basic. There's actually 3 rules to money. 3 rules. There are actually 8, but we're going to go over 3 today for the sake of time. If you understand these rules, you can begin to position yourself, no matter what your age is, no matter how much you can comfortably set aside, you can begin to use these rules of money to begin to set yourself up. And I also, too, want to share something with you about the importance of why it is so important to save. So let me share my screen with you really, really quick.
Sure.
Okay, I think I have.
And while you're doing that, I think you made a great point about, you know, especially in rural America, rural Mississippi, this is such a hardworking community, such a blue collar, hardworking community with such great hearts and great people. And it's not that anybody here is stupid, because they're not. It's just a matter of not being informed is what really hurts people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I can say too, I mean, my family is blue collar for sure. And they work really, really hard. But even for them, working hard was not quite enough to create what they needed.
Absolutely.
So this is, let me share some statistics with you really quick, and then we're going to get into the rules of money. So right now, 78% of Americans have a savings account. 78% of them. But most Americans, only 22% have $1,000 to $5,000 in that account. 51% of Americans have $5,000 or less in a savings account, while only 33% have $1,000 or less. That's insane. Inflation, we kind of talked about this. Inflation is silently robbing us of our buying power. That relates to you at your young age. If you're thinking that you can earn and work your way out of inflation, it's not going to happen. The best thing you have right now on your side is called time. Time. Look at these percentage, and I want you to think about if you have a savings account and you're earning 1%. If you're earning 1% in gas, this is from July 2023 to August. Gas has gone up by 10.6% just in those last 3 months, while you're still only earning 1% on your money. You have to work 9 times as hard just to keep up. So you're going to constantly keep feeling the pressure because the gap is getting tighter and tighter. Cost of living. Everybody wants a home, even if your credit score is great, but interest rates is through the roof. The cost of living, oh, when I get 18, I'm going to move out of my mom and daddy's house. I want to do my own thing. Okay, go right ahead. It sounds good, but does it make financial sense? And can you actually sustain it?
Yeah.
The cost, the shelter increased just in the last year by 7.3%. How many of you, by show of hands, got a 7.3% raise on your summer job? Your parents, your parents didn't even give a 7.3% raise on their job. So what is happening? If you don't see what's happening now, you will feel it. If you're driving, fortunately, your family is blessed to give you a vehicle, you feel it at the pumps. So let's talk about it. Do you think you can work your way to wealth on the job? If so, how many hours can you put in? I don't care how many hours you put in or how many jobs you have. It's not going to be enough to outpace inflation and put yourself in a position of financial security. Let's talk about why, Greg, in this class of personal finance is so important. Here's some statistics about financial literacy that's taught in high school. I thought this was so amazing because I had a personal finance class. I'm actually surprised. I'm so happy that schools are actually doing this because they cut it out for a lot of school systems. 70% of financial literacy class across the board for high schools is taught how to earn money. We're going to teach you how to earn it. 63%, we're going to teach you how to spend it. The difference between needs and wants. 71% saving. Get a bank account, savings account, checkings account. 39% borrowing. So now when it comes time to buying a car, buying a home, and look at how much it's taught when it comes to protecting it. Your emergency fund, what is it? Having 3 to 6 months of income saved up just for an emergency. Or identity theft, somebody stealing your identity. It's happening more and more on social media. Only 22.8% is taught across high school. But that, you can make it, you can spend it, but are you protecting it? And do you know how to grow?
Wow.
That's huge. That's huge. Here's another statistics. How many billionaires actually have degrees? 32%? None. None. But I can guarantee you, every single one of those individuals that are billionaires, you know what they have in common? Habits and consistency.
Yep.
Habits, consistency, and work ethic. That is what's going to take you far in life. Degrees will open a door. But if you don't have something back in why do you think volunteer hours is so important? The community needs to know that you're well-rounded, not just can sit in the class and take good notes and be a great test taker. No, you have to be well-rounded individual. It takes more than that to be a straight A student to be successful in society. Today's society, it takes more than that. So I thought this also was something to bring to your attention. Oh, I'm smart enough. Okay. But 32% of billionaires have no degrees at all.
Wow.
Let's talk about the 3 rules of money. The first rule of money is called the rule of 72. Again, developed by Albert Einstein. It is the rule of compounding interest. For my teenagers out there, listen, this example shows a 29-year-old. You have 4 different examples of an individual that's putting their money in a 1%, a 4%, 6% rate of return, and a 12% rate of return. If you're 29 or even say 19, and you start and your parent gave you $10,000, and you take that $10,000 and you put it in an account that's getting 1%, a savings account, 72 is your constant. Anything attached to an interest rate, you divide it by 72 is going to tell you how long it takes for your money to double. So if you were 29 years young and you put $10,000 in an account that giving you 1%, you will be 101 before that money doubles to $20,000.
Wow.
101. That same 29-year-old with $10,000 puts his money in an account that's getting a 12% rate of return. He's not doing anything different, but just allowing his money to earn at a higher rate of return. Every 6 years, his money is going to compound. By the time this individual at 35, 20,000, 41, 40, 47, 80, by the time this individual is 65, that $10,000 seed that their parents gave them is now $640,000. So I ask you, where do you want to be? 1 to 4% or 6 to 12? Let me tell you what I've seen in the last 6 years of being in financial services. We tend to save at 1 to 4%. And as you're going to college, seniors, getting these credit cards, are going to be handing them out like candy on campuses. I want you to remember, don't do it. That's right. I want you to remember this rule. 20%, 30%, 40% sometimes rate of returns. Your money is compounding at 40% while you're paying 40%. Don't do it. Do not get credit cards. You don't need them. But I want you also to think about this. How easy is it for you to get a credit card? Let's say I'll have $5,000 limit. But if you went to the bank and took out a $5,000 loan for a business, you wouldn't qualify. You got to ask yourself, why is that system that way? Again, if you never understand how to leverage the system will leverage you.
Absolutely.
First rule of money is the rule of 72. How fast is your money growing for you? Or how fast is the interest compounding? The second rule of money is how money grows. It's very simple. Money only grows 3 ways: fixed, variable, or indexing. Either you're going to grow it in a fixed account, a variable account, or indexing. It doesn't matter. Fixed or your CDs, a flat rate. In the 5 years or 3 years or whatever, they're going to give you 3% or 5%. That's all you're going to get. Nothing more, nothing less. Variable accounts, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, stocks, Bitcoins, all of these things. What is it variable? The definition of a variable, it fluctuates. When the market is up, your money is up. The market is down, your money is down. Then you have indexing. Indexing is a marriage of the two. You get to capitalize on all of the gains of the market and take none of the losses. So as an example, if you had 100,000, your parents, ask them, I challenge you, go home and ask them, Mom, Dad, did you lose money in 02, in 08, and most recently 2020? They're going to say yes. They lost money because their money was here in a variable account. But if they had an indexing and they had 100,000, when that market tanked, they didn't make any money, they didn't lose any money. It locked in their gains. When the market goes back up, you start at 100,000, now you get 150, it drops again. The market is going to fluctuate. We have no control over that. But you do have control over how much money you lose and when. And that's called indexing. The last rule of money is how money get taxed. We can't avoid taxes. How money get taxed. Either you're going to be taxed now, taxed later, or tax advantage. You want to take advantage of taxes. Tax now, savings account. If you have a savings, I want you to start paying attention to these things. In January, they send you out a 1099. 1099 are typically for self-employees. Did you work for the bank during that last year? No, you didn't, but your money did. So you have to ask yourself, what is the bank actually doing with my money? They're employing your money to work for them while you're still working to fund it for them. You got to flip the script on them. You got to understand and learn how to get in position to do that. Tax later. Taxes most likely will go up in the future. They can go down. They can most likely go up. Somebody's got to pay out the national debt. Somebody's got to pay out the stimulus check. Nothing in this life is free. Absolutely nothing. And if it is, you better question it. You better question it. If it sounds too good to be true, probably is.
Yeah.
Probably is. Right? And then tax advantages. There's accounts that's called Roth IRAs. There's accounts that's called custodial accounts. Maybe some of your parents have set up custodial Roth IRA accounts for you. They're doing something good for you so that you can avoid taxes later on in the future. And then, of course, cash accumulation and insurance policies. You may have heard individuals that's leveraging insurance products to be able to borrow money against it and do this. There's a lot of talk out there on the internet, but I challenge you to get familiar with these strategies, not just a glimpse of them. Because if you don't understand, if these plans are not properly structured, it could definitely hurt you.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to the questions, and for time's sake, just, what are some things that you've seen when people aren't at least familiar with these? I mean, obviously, again, we're not expecting everybody to be financial professionals because they have their own dreams, own career aspirations. But, we have people that always say, don't let people take advantage of you. You have to at least know what you're paying into and at least being familiar with these principles. So what are some of the mistakes and holes you've seen people fall into?
Sure. One of the biggest mistakes and holes I see people falling into is only trusting what's available through our HR department, right? Everyone says, regardless if you're 20 years of age, 50 or 65, everybody that comes to HR, you get the same plan. But maybe that plan is not for you. So you have to begin to think about what it is you want and when you want to retire, because you don't need age to retire, you need money. And there is no limit on how much money you can make. But again, it's about protecting and growing it. So one of the biggest mistakes is not asking questions, following the masses, and taking a cookie cutter plan. You have to begin to live your life by design and not default. And too many times, Greg, I have seen individuals, especially baby boomers, that I sit down with that have little to nothing saved. And I have to tell them, you're going to probably have to work until the day you take your last breath.
Yeah.
Ask questions early. If it doesn't work for you, challenge it.
Absolutely. Well, I do have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can, and these are really good. So I'm glad they're asking some tough questions. This first one's Gabriel G. He's a senior member of our football and baseball team here at Velma Jackson, and he asked, what was the main reason you stepped away from the nursing field into the money field?
Absolutely. So the first reason is personal. I felt that number one, I can help people. I can help people pass what I don't know. And I became a nurse because I wanted to help people, but I was very limited. I worked in the ICU and I saw way too many people passing away with financial regrets and not having to spend enough time because I had 2 and 3 jobs. I had way too many individuals looking me in my eyes and being told they have less than a month or 2 months to live and asking me what's going to happen to their children. And the resources that I had available at the hospital didn't have answers for them, and I didn't either. So I knew that I can help more people if I can help you in finances. And if you have enough money in your reserve, you can take the time off you needed. You don't have to work 2 and 3 jobs, so that it allows you the ability to be able to take care of yourself. So for me, I wasn't secure, and I saw the need in my community, and one pebble can make a difference. So that's my goal.
Yeah, and you see a lot of financial advisors now. The new hashtag is no more GoFundMe funerals. That's been really hot the last year or so. And unfortunately, it's like you said, unfortunately, it's a lot of rural communities, regardless of race, but in a lot of rural communities, it's sad enough when there's a sudden loss that the family has to deal with, but then putting that financial burden on them because nothing was saved, no insurance was taken out, makes it even harder. So it really does create a double tragedy for your family when you haven't taken those steps now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, insurance is definitely foundation of any financial portfolio. And we don't have time for that. Maybe at another time.
Yeah.
You really want to look up the history of insurances and how insurances dated back since the early 1800s. That's how Chase Bank and even Aetna Insurances became the big conglomerates that they are because of slave owners taking out policies, and they were able to buy more slaves. But that's a whole other topic. But insurances is key.
Yeah, this is a good question. This is another senior. This is Harmony Williams. She's the captain of our dance team here at Velma Jackson. Wants to be a business owner in the cosmetology industry, and she asked, "How do I create a budget right now as a high school senior?"
Oh my God, that's a great question. So I know oftentimes we hear, Harmony, that it is about needs and wants. Right now, it is about there is something that's called the 40, well, the 40 60 20 rule, right? So that means that you should be saving at least 40% of your money. 40%, right? So as you're making money right now, your budget, you're 40%. And here's the deal too. Impulsive spending, I know, especially when you start making a little money, you owe everything you see and you have money, you want to get it right now. Think about it. If it's not something you absolutely need right now, trust me, if you can go home and you can live without it and think about it, I guarantee you probably won't even want it, right? So begin by saving at least 40% of your income, creating that habit, so that it can take you further on. And once you start doing that, you'll be surprised at what you can actually live off of. But yes, 40% of your income, creating that habit. Business owner, cosmetology, that's amazing. My stylist is actually now, her products is now in Ulta as of yesterday. So
Wow.
don't give up on your dream. Is definitely, to her and her sister started it. So definitely don't get up on your dream. It's absolutely possible.
Absolutely. And that's a field that's not going away. This is a good question. This is Christian Wolf. He's also a senior. And he asked, what was the hardest part about transitioning from Mississippi to California?
Oh God, the hardest part was the people. Believe it or not. So the people, Mississippi is home. We just have that southern hospitality, and they don't have that here, right? You're kind of on your own. A classic example, when we had one of my nurses had lost everything in a fire. And I'm thinking like things were back when I was at St. D and UMC, right? Oh, everybody can take up money and donate hours and all of that. And they weren't willing to do any of that. So the hardest part and the biggest adjustment was the people, the culture, and also too the cost of living. The cost of living. The one bedroom apartment here in California, one bedroom apartment here, and not even a good area is about $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
So it's very, very expensive to live in California. So you have to really, I thank God for the foundation my mom and dad laid for me, because it has really helped me here be able to sustain. So yeah, that would probably be
Yeah,
the
and that's
most.
one thing I say. I always joke about, because and I get kids want to get out of their home, they want to get out of Mississippi. They see these stuff on the videos and Instagram of Dallas and Miami and Vegas and all that's a lot of fun. But I always say, big city living has big city bills, and that's not going away no matter what big city you're in or what field you're in. It's going to be expensive.
Yes, 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 I agree. Very expensive, very expensive. So yeah,
This
great
is a great
question.
question here. This is an area Mayfield. He's also a senior member of our football team here, and he asked, is it hard changing careers once you have received a degree in college?
No, it's actually not. I would have to say that everything you take, every journey you take in life is going to prepare you for your next level, right? Switching from nursing to finances is literally the same. It is for me, it is a passion of the heart. My desire is to help people, but now I can help people the way that I really want. And not only am I helping them, I'm also positioning generations and legacies after them. But once you have, don't ever let a degree define you, right? Don't ever feel like once you have a degree, oh, that's all I could do. There's always more. You never stop evolving, never stop working on yourself. There's always a higher you waiting for you to meet. So never stop evolving, never stop learning, and always be open to opportunities. Constantly reinvent yourself and reintroduce yourself to the world. And if your circle can't accept who you're becoming, then maybe you've outgrown them.
Yeah, and that's a great point because my mother is a very successful realtor, and her degree is in music education.
Wow.
Last week we had an airline pilot who had a degree in psychology. So it really is going after what makes you happy and how you can be financially sustainable your entire life. And I agree, a degree shouldn't define you. And honestly, and this people may disagree. If your field doesn't require a degree, you shouldn't waste the time and the money getting one. Get the certification, get the
I
Mississippi's got a great community college program to get working in 1 or 2 years, get the skills, get in the field. If you want to become an entrepreneur after you learn it, I think that's a great strategy.
I agree. I agree. Don't acquire student loans if you don't have to. That's for sure.
About I just got one more from the students. This is DeKayla Williamson. She's a sophomore, one of our cheerleaders here at Velma Jackson. And she
Yay.
asked, what are about your job are you most passionate about, and what advice would you give a young person that wanted to get into this field?
The job that I'm most passionate about is everybody's story is different. And I absolutely love that because it allows me to tailor my recommendations to where they are. Everybody's destination is the same. Everybody wants to retire financially free and financially independent. And everybody's on the same journey. But where they are on that journey, you have to meet them where they are. And sometimes it's basic budgeting. And sometimes it's restructuring their retirement account. Sometimes it's insurances. Sometimes it's college planning for their children. Whatever it, sometimes it's estate planning. So you get to meet them where they are. Also, too, I love that I provide services to my clients free. All of my consultations are free. All of my plans are free. I am an independent broker. I do work for myself. So I'm not obligated to sell you anything. I love to function on three things. I love to educate, empower, and inform. That's my principle that I operate by. What I would give you as an advice to getting into this field is it's a service of the heart. You have to absolutely love people. When it comes dealing with finances, understanding the taboo that you're up against, because it's not a topic that we are openly, especially in the South. Like you don't talk about finance, you don't talk about money, you don't talk about, and that was an adjustment too when I came to California because everybody knew how much everybody made because it was across the board pay board. Whereas in the South, not necessarily, right? Everything is kind of hush hush and kept secret. But here it's open. Oh, you make how much? Oh, yeah, me too. And then you can look at the pay scale and see, oh, I like and then you go to the HR and you can challenge it with somebody else's paycheck. You can't do that in the South, right?
Wow.
You can't do that in the South, especially if your skill set and your degrees, they have to meet you where you are. So it's very fair. But what I would say to anyone that wants to get into this field is again, understanding what you're up against. Number one, finances is not an easy topic and an easy discussion. It is definitely can be an embarrassing, and also too, it's our relationship with money too. So when you're unpacking finances, you're unpacking a lot of relationship and how we deal with money. Also to understanding that it takes two things to be successful in this industry. You have to have trust and you got to have credibility. People's got to trust you. They don't care the color of your skin. My clients are every race. When I say every race, every race. They could care less that I'm a Black woman from Mississippi. What they care about is the moment that I open my mouth. Do you know what you're talking about? Are you credible? And can you back it up with results? Once you can do that, they could care less. They trust you. They will follow you to the moon and back. So don't ever also to let the color of your skin or your Southern twang defer you from being successful and being a businesswoman. Just make sure that you spend time on perfecting your craft and knowing what you know. Once you know what you know and you step into the room, your confidence is going to speak for you. And that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, and before I get to the end up here, I think that's a great point because in this class and in other classes, I had them do a presentation once a month. I don't grade it hard. It's just to get them speaking in front of a small group to learn how to verbally communicate. And I think that is the most lost skill for young people right now, because even if you don't want to get into finance, you have to be able to speak to customers. You have to be able to speak to employees. You have to be able to speak to coworkers, and being able to do that sets you apart. It sets you apart no matter what your race is, no matter what your gender is. If you can be articulate and speak, it's, and they think I'm just being so mean and this is just so hard. And I think all the teachers that see this later will also agree, you can be a great student, but if you can't be a great speaker, you're gonna, not, me and you can speak in front of thousands of people and we're fine. We're not asking people to do that, but you got to be able to communicate on a personal, face-to-face level, and that is what sets you apart when it comes to searching for a career.
It is. I absolutely agree. And believe it or not, when I was in college, I hated public speaking. I hated public speaking, but I had to really understand why I didn't like it. Now people think, "Oh my God, you're such a great speaker." But understand this too. Once you find your passion and your niche, right? Lack of knowledge brings about fear. So anything you're not knowledgeable on, you're not going to be confident in, right? So once you find that, and once you begin to develop that, you're going to surpass your expectations. But being an eloquent speaker, let me just tell you, it is. My father used to tell me this all the time. Tonza, you're going to have to bring something to the table besides a pretty face. You got to back that up with being professional and being smart. So I was like, okay, great. So again, speaking, not texting. I'm not a texter. I've never been. I want to hear your voice because tonality is everything, right? And everything. So yes, I agree with you. We have to speak, present.
Awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. Just such great information. But before we go, you're also from rural Mississippi, just like we are. You know exactly what it's like to be a young Black kid in rural Mississippi, but yet you've done some amazing things. So what can these kids do now to follow in the same footsteps? Because the circumstances are pretty much identical.
Yeah. Being raised by a single mom with an 8th grade level of education, that was my upbringing. My mom and my parents probably told you the same thing your parents are telling you, right? And you probably feel as if you got the whole world on your back and you're carrying them. And guess what? That's not going to go away, to be honest. So much of your family and your parents and grandparents' sacrifice is riding upon you being successful. So what I say to you and I challenge to you is to become the best version of you every day. Every day. It is okay to be the nerd. It is okay to be smart. It is okay not to have the coolest shoes and the coolest. I didn't have any of those things, nothing. And now what I value more now is what you leave in people, right? So you have to understand, don't try to chase the trends. Everybody's about the trends now. Trends are going to fade and it's always going to be something else. But smart never goes out of style. Being eloquent never goes out of style. Being professional never goes out of style. So you want to work on those characteristics right now. If you have an assignment, try your best not to submit it late, right? Don't submit it late. If you make a mistake, own up to it, right? Own up to it. It's not ratting out and telling on yourself, it's developing your character. So right now, as you are in the rural area, like I didn't have anything, nothing coming up, but I had everything. And understand that your parents have sacrificed so much for you to be where you are. Even though you may look to your left or your right and you see somebody that has more, understand that you see them, but you don't know what their parents are going through or not going through to get to where they are. All you can focus on is your journey. Your journey is something you're creating every day. So do it with integrity, do it with character, and do everything with a spirit of excellence. I challenge each and every one of you. Black excellence is my theme. I've always been my theme. And there is nothing wrong with you. You can do any and everything you set your mind to, but do it with the spirit of excellence. Everything you do, everything that you say, spirit of excellence.
Love it. Such a great testimony and a great testament to the financial success. So again, Tonza Christian all the way out in San Francisco, California. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody, and good luck. Have a great school year.
All right. Talk to you later, my friend.
Bye-bye.